quick look at the new Blueberry Burst dwarf blueberry plants put out by PlantNet. They're the same people who put out the dwarf Pinkerbell apple, if you might recall that from a few years ago. They've got a new release of a plant called Blueberry Burst. It only grows to about 1 metre, and it gets quite large fruit, which is quite impressive if you see the size comparison. So what I'm going to do is just pot it up the same way that they recommend on the label. So now blueberries are an acid loving plant, so we're going to treat them more or less like an azalea or camellia, and thus we're using the azalea and camellia potting mix. But what we're going to do that's a little bit different, and something which if you've grown Vireo rhododendrons or something similar where you want a bit more aeration through the soil and better drainage, is we're also going to include a little bit of coarse pine bark. So that's the azalea and camellia mix. And then what I've got here is some of the coarse orchid growing media, and it's quite a chunky granule. And we're going to do a mixture of half of those two together. I'll get a bit more in there. A bit more of this on top actually. But I'm not just going to leave it like that. You do want to work the two together, so obviously you can wear gloves if you're so inclined, but we're going to get a nice mixture of a nice open soil. And as I say, if you've grown Vireo rhododendrons before, it's something that you might be quite familiar with doing, just sort of mixing the two together. And that's going to give us a really nice open mix, which we can then plant our little blueberry into. So you'll see the blueberry itself, it's been grown in what looks like a largely coir peat and perlite type mix, which is again nice and open. But we're just going to plant that in as such and fill in through the sides, obviously. And then what you can also do, which is also recommended on the package, maybe just put a little bit of the bark around the top, which is going to act as a mulch of sorts. Now that's one planted up, ready to go. All it needs is water in. Now you could put a slow release fertiliser at the same time, like an Osmocote. I'm going to use a fortnightly application of something like Phosphagen acid loving plant food. It's balanced towards plants again like azaleas and camellias, which do like that more acid mix towards them. So that's something that you just simply mix up in the water and can water it over. You can do it at fortnightly intervals, and we'll come back and see how well it goes. But the new Blueberry Burst, check it out in your garden centres this weekend.